Hey, what's up, everybody? So I want to talk about this, and I've mentioned this in another video, but I hate doing this. Um, but I see a lot of people doing it. On YouTube, so I call them driver's seat life coaches. And today, in this video or whatever time frame it is where you're at, I'm gonna be a driver's seat life coach. So what I'm seeing on social media is that you've got people claiming to be, millionaires, all this different stuff, and they're recycling content on YouTube. And basically, there's so much stuff now on YouTube about dating, about finances, about all this different stuff. And really, I feel like a lot of times people are just saying stuff and really not offering anybody solutions. So here's the only solution that I can offer. So you guys see right here that I made, and I don't got the whole complete breakdown of my, earnings and what times or whatever, but I'm going to say this, is that what everybody has to do is, and I'm just going to give this as an example. A lot of, there's people are saying everything is going towards AI, and I agree with that to a certain extent. But, I feel like there's still people are still needed for certain things. And the way the world is going is that I think social interaction is really what shapes the world. So a lot of people now with social media, we're being, we're digesting a lot of information, basically saying that we don't need other people in order to be successful. But I think that's a lie. Now I can't rely on, anybody else in the world to go out here right now and give me $223.99. But the way I earn that $223.99 is by doing food delivery. Now, a lot of people are venturing out in these other avenues to generate money because they're just like, well, I see people on YouTube, doing this and that. But if you're recycling content, I just feel like that is very short-lived. And anyone that's being any kind of life coach or dating coach, they need to offer you solutions. So as a delivery driver, the solution that I can offer you, but is that you have to put the work in. Like, you've got to drive, you got to drive for 5 hours, or you got to be in the area that you got to find what area is lucrative for you, rather than sit there and digest all the videos and and don't take this and don't take that. Because I feel like, so behind the scenes, what I do is, and I have to force myself to do this, but what are we working for? We're working to basically pay off bills, okay? But what a person like me has to do is, you have to stop the bleeding. So if you have high credit card debt and all this unnecessary debt, you've got to sock away a big portion of that, your earnings, to get that debt knocked out of the way. Now, a car, people talk about buying a beater and all this different stuff and doing food delivery. I don't have a new car. I have, my car is a 2020, I think it's a 2023. And I like having a newer vehicle just for peace of mind. But associated with that, having a newer car, is a car payment. And that forces you to get out here and hustle more than you necessarily want to. Now, in the time frame that you're hustling, I feel like a lot of these people have created YouTube channels. A lot of drivers have created YouTube channels because they do want to fill that void. You know, while they're driving around, they want to share experience. They want to talk to other people. They want to get input, and also possibly they want to be able to generate some more revenue, you know, from YouTube. But I'm not 100% sure how much YouTube is paying, you know, drivers to share their experiences with people. Now, one of the things also I see too is that a good thing about it, I see like some people that have been doing DoorDash for a long time, they're highly visible, and they develop some kind of you know, relationship with the company. But when these drivers develop a relationship with the company and they're talking about, you know, different practices and things are going to change and blah blah blah, I always feel like in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, these delivery companies got these drivers in their pocket, and maybe, you know, that driver right there is getting, you know, paid for still promoting the company. But what about the unfair business practices that some of these companies do that don't benefit drivers? So one of the unfair business practices that these delivery companies do is that a lot of times I will get on and I will see a high paying delivery. So let's say, and for example, I got on the other day and I had a delivery for $77. Now people, you know, I mean, I know there's people in the world that make that, but when you see 77, you're instantly, your heart jumps and you're just like, $77 an hour. That I'm taking that, okay? But to tell you the truth, that delivery took me at least 3 hours to complete. And I also maintain another job. So every time when I do these deliveries, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between two jobs. I recommend everybody, that's one thing I'm going to say as a solution, not to just blab on, but I recommend everybody having some kind of straight W-2 job, some job that's paying you to so things even out, especially, you know, in this economy. But I know how like people have gotten laid off, and also I know that for food delivery, it's the easiest point of entry. I mean, it's just like, you don't got to get out here and get a business degree. I mean, for a while, I've had people tell me, well, get in the IT field, but in order for me to get in the IT field, I need degrees and certificates and all this different stuff. I mean, I could work help desk. I've worked help desk before, but I hated it. But for food delivery, it's the least barrier of entry. So from the start, like I said, what you can do is try your damnedest to limit your expenses. And I've gotten myself in hot water multiple times with credit cards, but I'm getting to the point where I'm just like, look, I'm tired of spending my life just, you know, constantly, repetitively chasing money. Now, as a delivery driver, here's the thing, folks. I like being a delivery driver because I do have flexibility, and I do things. I do spend my money. I do things for family. I do things with friends. So I love the fact that food delivery provides me a flexibility. But there's also a certain level of volatility that comes along with doing food delivery. In the news, I've seen countless videos of people getting, you know, in fights or shot, you know, behind a simple food delivery. And then companies will come out and they'll say, oh, we removed that person from the platform. And I'm just like, that's not what I want to hear. I want to hear solutions so this doesn't happen to anybody else again. So, you know, there's all kinds of, like, as a society, you know, even safety is like, we've seen people get horribly maimed at jobs, and then they put the safety guards in place. That's what should happen for food delivery. So as a food delivery driver, I know people are in different areas, but I tend to recommend, and even for myself, is that I hate doing unfamiliar areas at night. I mean, if it's areas that I'm familiar with, then I'm cool with the back and forth, but I get to the point where at night is not worth it. And I know in the very beginning, I used to hear a lot of people like, they didn't want women going out by themselves and all this different stuff. But women started seeing that, not just women, but people in general just started seeing that extra income. And they're just like, okay, I'll take it. But when I hear about, drivers getting in altercations, and there's just recently a driver got shot in the back of the head, that makes me not want to, I've never done passenger drop off and stuff, and I never will, because I'm like, that's just too much. I've had my brief interactions with crazy people, doing food delivery and stuff, but like I said, after being, and anything could happen, but after being, a seasoned driver, I just, I pick my poison. So, and this is for people that, like I said, a lot of this stuff I'm saying people probably already know, and I sound like a broken record, but you can make a little bit of money doing food delivery, but also have some other irons in the fire. But with these jobs, okay, when they talk about people getting laid off and all this different stuff, I don't know what background people come from, but everyone is not going to go out here and get a degree and go to college and get in so much financial debt to their eyeballs. So I just see a lot of people doing these plug and play jobs. Now, for me though, as a delivery driver, I haven't been doing delivery driver my whole life. I've worked for Xerox, I've worked in the hotel industry, I've done, all kinds of stuff. So I feel like I'm not an expert, but I still feel like it's important for people to earn other valuable skills that they can roll over into something when this all comes to a screeching halt. I mean, if they started rolling out self-automated delivery cars within the next year, people are going to be hurting, including myself. But in that time frame, when whatever we're doing, there's a lot of people, they're complaining, oh, they stopped DEI hires and all this different stuff. But I was just like, really, some of y'all were just were working these jobs that they could just plug anybody in there. So don't act like you were the most skilled professional. I'm not the most skilled professional doing food delivery. It's simple to me. But I feel like, to a certain extent, food delivery is like a logistics job. You make sure that the shipment gets from A to B and all this different stuff. But I don't think, if you go into another company, they're not gonna pay you big bucks, the top logistics position manager job. You're still gonna have to have a degree or whatever, or schooling or experience and all that different stuff. But I feel like our society, the way things are going, is our society is going to have to change. And it's just we're in a weird place right now. If they say your job is going to get taken by, it's just like, well, yeah, but I still need to make money. Like the computer is not going to pay my rent every month. And I don't like the fact when people kind of cheer the layoffs and all this different stuff, because to me, what that does is it creates a lot of people in the world out here with uncertainty that will lash out at other people because they're uncertain. I mean, I get antsy when the pay is low. I get antsy when, there's sometimes I'm like, man, I really haven't done that much deliveries. I get antsy if I get sick and I'm like, I haven't driven. Or I know people, people, if you're a person out here you get in a freaking car accident. You're just like, where's the money going to come from? So everybody's asking that question. And then I saw a video today about a lot of celebrities being broke. And I'm just like, a lot of people, they want to dance around the thing, but I do believe that. I do believe that a lot of people that act like they're going on, that have it going on, really don't have it. They really don't have it. And I'm not one of those people. Like, I'm not living paycheck to paycheck, but all the times, but there's times when it's very tight. And then also too is like building up emergency funds. There's been times where I've built up a substantial amount of emergency funds, and immediately after that, it's just like you think you're out of the woods. You're like, okay, now, I can take a vacation and I can do this and I can do that. And then you look up and you're just like, you're back in the hole again. And I'm not expecting anybody to be a penny pincher and not live their life. But I've heard that some people, it's all about, some people work a job that is not too glamorous, but somehow, some way, they find a way to invest their money. But here's the thing about the people I've heard about that, though. I've heard about a lot of people that just lived way below their means and they died. And they didn't live an extravagant life, but after their passing, they were like, what do they call it? The philanthropist or whatever. And I understand that, but I still want to live though too. And like I said, and the stuff that I do sometimes, I don't think is super glamorous, but it still takes a huge chunk of money sometimes to do certain things. I mean, we stayed in a hotel last week. It cost $400. Then I paid for the valet parking, and then I paid something else to go to a show. For the museum, we were going to go to the museum with 3 people. It was $71. So when you look at it, you may not look at, when you're spending money right then, you may not look at like a lot of money right then and there, but it all adds up. But as a delivery driver, I feel like on a day-to-day basis, I try to replenish my spending. But other than that, and nobody, nobody, they're like, oh, I'm not an expert or whatever, but it's just like you do have to invest in something that's, some kind of passive income, whatever. But you see people doing it, but I don't know the long term of people doing YouTube and stuff. I mean, even for me, I don't see the longevity. And initially, when people started doing videos on food delivery, it was very sparse, and now the market is flooded with people. So I was like, the money's definitely not there. And people talk about brand deals and all this different stuff, but when you're under a brand deal, I don't think you can talk as candid as you can before you're under that brand deal. I don't believe that. I feel like people feel like they have to bite their tongue and saying, different things about these companies. And a lot of times it's like, I don't see why people will get burned or get blacklisted or booted off the platform, but it's a lot of times people are mentioning valid concerns that should be addressed. Like I said, is you'll get baited into taking, you'll see a $77 delivery, but you're driving way cross country. And a lot of times I've seen this is where these companies, it'll happen on Walmart Spark, but it'll be problematic deliveries. It'll be like you'll get to a house where there's a gate code and they didn't give the gate code, or it's just something weird. It'll be something very weird, and you'll be like, that's why the high pay is on there. But I will say this, as a delivery driver, I try to be as much of a problem solver as I can. I know there's a lot of delivery drivers that I've seen that get frustrated right off the rip. Oh, I had to wait. I had to do this. I had to do that. And after doing it for so long, I've just gotten to the point where, I mean, I'm not totally immune, but a lot of things I try to work out. There's been so many issues lately that instead of just immediately getting angry, I've had to work it out. And like I said, it's not like it's angry on the app side. It's not like I see a customer and I'm like getting into an altercation. No, it's like on the app side, something weird will happen. I'm like, we got to sort this out. You know, there was an issue at Safeway on Uber where the barcodes were not scanning. And in the comment section, hopefully somebody watches this video, but in the comment section, if you've had that issue with Safeway and it not scanning the barcodes, let me know. I'm going to do a video. If you respond back to me, I'm going to do a video and explain to you the solution that I came into. But I want to cut this video short. I want to see if anybody responds. A lot of times I got to leave these videos out for a long time before anybody responds, but we'll see what happens. Peace out.